Hey everybody, welcome back to the Personal Transformation Podcast. My name is Dan Storey, author of Personal Transformation Blueprint. And one of the big transitions that a lot of people go through, especially as they get, I guess, a little bit more successful in life, is this realization we get stuck in this trap of average. And one of the aspects of that is career. And so I'm joined today by Anna Urnova, who's a career coach and career transition specialist. And we're going to be diving into this topic of how do we escape even maybe a potentially successful career and go into something that's a bit more meaningful and fulfilling. So, Anna, great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this topic in particular because I guess, and we caught up just before the show as well, just to kind of go through things. But you said like I'm right in that target market, right? I'm a I, don't know, I hate to say middle-aged man, but I'm gradually associating to that identity, and I've had a career, right? And I've got to a point where I'm thinking, okay, well, what's next? What's the next challenge? And in the book, I talk about these different phases of life, and I'm at that phase of life where I'm, father, and I've got to start thinking about my daughter and what messages I'm sending. But also, I'm trying to live my life, right? I've done fairly
Yeah.
well, but I've still got challenges inside of me that I think I want to fulfill. And you're saying that a lot of men get to this point, and career transition is often one of those things that they look at because they're not satisfied with their work. So, just briefly, how did you get into career coaching, career transition work? What was your journey? How did you land in this space?
Mm. Oh, well, good question. Well, first, I orchestrated my own career transition, and of course, I struggled with it a lot. That's why it became something that caught my attention, and I had to figure out how to do it correctly because at the time I was in corporate and I wanted to become a coach. And I actually worked with a lot of coaches and consultants, and I read a lot of books, but it just didn't work for me. And so I had to figure out how to do it in a different way, and eventually I did. It took years of suffering, so to say, and being stuck and doing it the wrong way, and then making mistakes, and then rerouting myself and all that. Eventually, I did make a successful transition, and for the last over 17 years, almost 20 years, I've been coaching. I've been working in the world of coaching. Some of it was in parallel with my corporate, but it was a lot of coaching. And the first decade, I was working as executive coach. I've been very lucky, really working with great organizations, and I worked with executives, so basically corporate managers, corporate senior managers, top leaders, often CEOs, their teams, and it's all about how to become more effective, how to become better leaders, blah blah blah. And what I noticed also very very interesting thing happened that the more I kind of knew that my clients and worked with them in groups and individually as well, that this kind of a hidden request started to appear because in coaching we have requests. I mean, I want to be a bit better leader. That's what you. I want to be more effective in managing my team, right? Something like that. And then what often would happen that underneath that, once we build rapport and trust, the person would actually say, you know what, really really bothers me. I really want to leave this company. I'm so fed up. I'm not enjoying myself. I'm soldiering through my days, and it didn't just happen like leaders, senior leaders. It happened like at CEO level, literally. When a CEO, like after a very successful, team event, would call me aside and say, you know what, you seem like a nice coach, a good person. I can trust you. Do you think I have any chance to find myself somewhere else? Because I mean, I know it looks great on paper, but I hate it. And there's something you touched upon, how to live a successful career, because a lot of men tell me that I mean, they have something that looks great on paper, right? And anyone would kill for a job like that, for an income like that. But he feels somehow suddenly, and maybe he was even great, I mean, feeling great about it like a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, right? But something happened, and now he's no longer happy. He's soldiering through his days. He's dreading Mondays. He's really like pulling. He's faking it in front of his team and all that. And one of the reasons, because he believes, I mean, no one should lose a job like that. I'd be crazy to say no to this, right? So like what I said, others would kill for a job like this. So it's like all these voices that keep you going, but inside, it's not you. Yeah, and on the one hand, the man starts experiencing symptoms that are just very disturbing, right? He's like losing his sleep. Um, he's feeling low in the mood. He's losing his mojo. He's out of energy. He's pushing himself all the time, forcing themselves out of duty, obligation, all that. He's not sharing it with anyone. Often men don't even share it at home.
Yeah.
And of course, wives, partners, children, they feel it, but then the man becomes grumpy. Then he's like, becomes isolated. He's, of course, not sharing with his friends. A lot of leaders feel very isolated. That's what I learned as a coach. And basically, I'm kind of a little bit going on a tangent here, but basically, what as a coach I learned that there's a bigger request underneath all these official requests of corporate coaching. There's a bigger request there. And I started to be curious. And then at some point, I had to navigate another transition in my career to become online coach. For different reasons. One of them was I was really suffering with my health due to a lot of travel with my executive coaching. And as an online coach, I had coaches and consultants help me to navigate that change. And turned out I had to specialize, right? And we just looked at all the clients I worked with so far, and we realized that this niche of mid-career managers, men specifically, because 90% of my clients were men. It's like, unfortunately, that's the truth about corporate executive levels, right? On any executive program, you have a group of five men, one woman, right? Or two women max. So this is kind of how it works. And I also realized that there's a much bigger request there. And this request is that these men have a lot to offer to the world, but their current career is not working and they're trapped. They feel trapped, right? Yeah. All different things, and they need help to pivot it. And the way they often think it should happen is not the way it should happen. And that I know from my personal experience, right? And so I started to kind of experiment with that niche, and I realized, oh my God, this is like a gold mine in terms of a lot. What I mean by that, there's so much potential, so much gift, so much talent, so much experience, knowledge, kind of trapped in this niche. And these men are dying to share it with the world. They want the world to benefit from that, because that's what the nature of these men. They want to share. They want to make the world a better place. Honestly, not just like saying it. They really want it. And like you said, they also have kids, and they want to leave a world a better place for next generations, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Eric Erickson, actually a psychologist dealing with human development, he defined this particular stage in our life, the midlife, so to say. You said, oh, I hate to call myself a midlifer. But that's actually, he said, that's the stage where we navigating, and he particularly actually spoke about men, this tension between stagnation and generativity. So if you don't find yourself a way to be useful to next generation, so to say, to the world, you probably will stagnate, even with your great career, money, whatever. And that's what men hate, honestly. Right? They hate stagnating, because actually stagnation takes you down, right? So you become boring, grumpy, lose your energy and all that. And so no one wants that to happen.
I use that exact same research in the book, so it's fun that we're on the same page. And no, I felt that, right, is you get to a point where you become so good at something, but there's then kind of economy and efficiency kicks in, so you don't actually have to try as hard to do the things that you need to do. You go through the same processes, whatever you're doing, and like you say, it becomes very stagnant. And when reality is we're in the prime, and I'm going to talk about myself here. You know, maybe I've had more energy and more youth in the past, but now I've got focus and other skills and talents that I can use now.
100%.
To use, right? I want it to put it to use. I don't want to sit here and do the same thing over and over again. Okay, so it's good. So we're talking about the same thing, and we talked about this before. I used to run seminars. We do motivation seminars, thousands of people in the room jumping up and down. I'm motivated to go and do something. They leave, they quit their job on a Monday. I see them a month later, like, how's it going? They're like, oh, I'm back at my job because everything fell apart. But don't think we're talking about crazy quit your job and travel off and join the circus thing.
Yeah,
So
no.
but I'm also glad that you went through a transition and learned. So we'll try and pick some of the lessons that you took and some of those mistakes you made. So help me out. What if I'm looking at this, if I'm thinking, right, yeah, I am a bit frustrated, what's a really good sign that I should be thinking about a career transition? Is there something that you see in the people that you work with that is common that means career is a good focus for them to change as opposed to a different aspect of their life?
That's a very good question, right? I'd say you need to pay attention. So dread, for instance, when a man starts dreading Mondays, right, and going to work in general, and not just going to work. So a lot of men like work from home now. There's hybrid working, but they just dread this, start of the working day. They're not looking forward to it. That's a big sign that what you're doing is somehow not working for you, right? And it might be a toxic environment in your particular company or workplace. You maybe have a toxic boss, but you definitely need change. That's not normal. I just want to that's the message I want to share in big red letters. Not normal to dread your workday. Yeah, and on a Sunday spend basically Sunday morning, oh my god, it's Sunday, what does it mean? It's tomorrow is Monday, right? So you have a whole day in front of you, enjoying it with your family, and then all they find yourself thinking about tomorrow, right? So how tomorrow that's going to all end, and tomorrow it's going to be back in this toxic environment and all that, right? And a lot of men ignore that, and they think that they have to soldier through this, and they just have to, push through it, force through it, or whatever, out of duty obligation, or that's very important point. They don't want to accept that they're somehow a victim in these circumstances, right? But that's what toxic environments do to you, right? So one thing is it's not normal to dread your job. So if it's happening, we don't know yet if it's just the job, if it's just this company, because some companies have more toxic culture, while others in the same industry will not, right? So um, or it may be overall, maybe you, I don't know, maybe you hate the whole 9 to 5 thing already, right? You feel it's, too limiting. Or maybe, like you said, Dan, for instance, maybe you already outgrown it, right? So like it seems like you already developed mastery, and maybe your company cannot utilize that, right? So you feel like a lot of guys actually say that my company is utilizing 10%, 20%, 30% of what I can offer. The rest is just like whatever routine and the politics and the admin or something, but it's like it's not, I mean, other people could do it better, so they're not utilizing me. So I'm like sitting there, I'm like counting hours, but 80% of my talent, gifts, skill sets are not utilized. It's just wasted. This
Yeah.
feeling of waste, right? So whatever things like that, it's not normal. This should be a red flag, and you should pay attention. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really about, sometimes you can even find job within the same company. That happens as well. So you always have to try it. But a lot of guys who I talk to, they've already tried that. They maybe already changed job within the same company. They maybe already shifted to another company. They tried things, right? They tried things, and they all say, or many of them say similar things like, well, first 3 6 months it felt like something new. I was learning, learning new skills, so it's fun. But then I kind of found myself back dreading, soldiering through, low energy, low motivation, brain fog. I mean, I would do anything, literally anything, to get myself, interrupted in my work and all that. Connected to that, they also feel guilt, shame. They also have massive imposter syndrome,
Mm.
because they are feeling they only do the minimum, because they're demotivated. So they only do the mere minimum, so they always feel like they'll be found out anytime now, and they will be fired, and there's going to be shame, and it's going to be, so it's like the whole stories and the whole very negative spiraling. That they also feel terribly guilty, their families and things like that. Like, oh, I should be doing this. They tell, like, kids, for instance, oh, you should really love your job, but then they hate it.
Yeah.
So you see, it's like the whole. So if your listeners, right, find yourself, it's like anything resonates, pay attention. Not normal.
I love it. Like you say, it's common, but it's not normal. That's
Exactly, it's common
that's
but
the
not
thing.
normal.
And I've experienced like a few of these situations. I remember one where I think I'd done it to myself, right? But I'd managed to develop my team members, so I was useless within the. I'd made myself redundant, and so I needed to
Mm,
actually move on and move out of the way so they could have growth. I felt that was a positive transition for me. I've also
absolutely.
been in the situation where I've had a very toxic uh, boss, and like it was a really tough situation. And in those places, you're like, well, I should persist. And I think this is
Yeah,
it's not exclusively male, but it's a very male attitude, which is,
very.
and we talked about this, suffer, suffer, suffer in order
Yeah,
that you can provide,
yeah,
that kind of
yeah, yeah.
idea. And so I did
Or not see yourself as a victim. Do not give up. Do not give up. Like this, persist. Like they say, persevere. And that's a big, big no, because that's actually, it's a trap. So because
yeah,
you don't want to see yourself as a victim, you kind of keep trying to make this relationship with the toxic boss work, and it's just
Like
burns you
Helsinki
out.
syndrome after all, right?
Yeah.
Stockholm syndrome, one of the syndromes. We just feel you feel trapped, but you feel like indebted
Yeah.
and almost those
Yeah.
kind of things. And yeah, I see a lot of people say, okay, well, it'll be better, or I just keep going, and I shouldn't grumble. And like you say, we don't. Many people won't talk about it; they'll just kind of silently suffer. But then this is why the statistics of so many heart attacks on a Monday morning, where people are like, "Oh, I
Mm.
don't want to do it," and it's just
Mm.
it's correlation, but it's
Yeah. Yeah.
so how about this though? The challenge is, and if you look at people who say midlifers, we've reached a level of success with career, which oftentimes comes from narrowing, right? So we've narrowed a focus. For me, it's largely been around sales, team development, enablement, etc. So I have a very specific skill set there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can reach a ceiling in terms of capacity to grow. What advice do you give then? So you're saying people still have ability and talent. What does transition look like if it doesn't? Because what I've just heard you say there as well, you go to another job and you repeat the same problems. And the advice I give to people if they're thinking about changing jobs, I say, okay, well, don't run away from something because you'll find yourself in the same place again if you try and just to escape a
Yeah.
situation. You should run to something, like create something that you want to go to
Mm.
because it's a different set of challenges. What's your advice? What does that kind of first step of designing the next move? What does that look like?
So the first thing is, okay, pay attention, right? And accept that maybe some change needs to happen. Well, seeking help is actually a good idea as well. And this is where men really bad as well. Men don't like seeking help in general. I mean, it's getting much better now, honestly, with, men seek coaches and mentors and, therapy or counseling or whatever, or just even confiding it up. But generally, I don't know where it comes from, but somehow there's this belief that many men have, especially like driven, ambitious men, that if you are blank leader, if you're a man, if you're smart or whatever, you should figure it out on your own by
Yeah.
yourself. I don't know where it comes from, but it's maybe like the schooling where they say, "Well, you're asking a stupid question. Couldn't you just figure it out on your own?" Something like that. Well,
Yeah.
this is when it comes to your career, asking what might be a stupid question and asking for help is really important, because then you, first of all, even when you will be sharing what you're dealing with, you would hear it yourself, because a lot of men actually hear when they talk to me, they tell me, "I've never shared it with anyone. Talking to you, I'm hearing my own story, and now I know it's not normal," right?
Mm.
It's very important. Get it out of your head. Generally, getting out of your head is very important for men. Talking to another person is one of the ways. Seeking help of any kind, right? So that's what I would say. But generally, what I would say, because a part of just not being happy where you are, you often also have certain dreams, fantasies about what it could have been. Sometimes you may be watching someone else's podcast or reading a book or watching a movie, and you're like, "That's me. I wish I had that," right? Or you speak to someone about someone and he quit his job and he's doing now this, and you're like, "Oh my God, I wish I could do that." So there is also this kind of signs that some part of you feel there is a much better future for you there. There's a better path for you there. All men have that. Some pay attention, some just ignore because it's a fantasy. It's not real. It's not real. But everything is not real until you make it real, right? So,
Yeah.
but I would say pay attention. Pay attention to that little voice that says, "Hey, there's better things out there for us," right? So, first, pay attention to symptoms, how it's not working. Second, pay attention to a little voice that says, we could be doing this. Oh, you would really enjoy doing this, right? So, listen to that, right? There's also something you said about we specialize and we reach a ceiling. And a lot of guys feel stuck at that point because there is also a big belief out there that career pivot or transition will make you start all over. You'll start from scratch. You'll go down to zero. Oh my God, this is driving me crazy. I'm sorry. It's like getting emotional here, but it's almost like saying, you know what, you go like a travel around the world, and then like 6 7 into your trip, you kind of lost your way. Well, now you have to go back, go back where you started no, a lot of people make this assumption because that's how we started our career. But now when we like 35, and then 35 40 44 45 50, I mean, they already have so much experience, which actually it's not wasted.
Yeah.
So this is about, and even if you specialize, right, it's not wasted. And you now have to really, you know, own all the skill sets, all the experiences that you've acquired so far, and think what else could be done with it. And here you would need help, but basically what I'm saying is that it's a little bit like, you know, I mean, you have a kid, right? You have a child,
A little daughter. I'm a
a
proud
little.
girl. Yes.
Is she already like Lego playing?
We're playing Lego. She's very advanced on Lego Friends. We've built a couple of donut shops and some frozen stuff. Yeah, she's very good at Lego.
So basically, that's the best metaphor I have for that. So you are certain, you're certain, let's say, a professional identity that you built over time with these Lego pieces, right? So in order for you to pivot, you cannot pivot just like this whole Lego piece, which is already built, right? And that's what a lot of men actually try to do, and then they feel very limited options, and then they basically despair, or as you say, they just jump off and they like think, okay, I'm just quit my job, and now I woke up a new man. No, you actually, the best thing is that you already start preparing or working on plan B while you still have a paid job, so you don't have to deal with fears of having a bill to pay and at the same time experiment with new identity at the same time. So you do your experimentation and, you know, plan B building while you still have secure employment, if you have that chance, right? If you're having that, and but you actively experiment and build your new identity. And how you do that, you actually dismantle this built identity into those, back into those Lego pieces. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Which could be skill sets, gifts, talents. And by the way, they're not just your career, they're also your personality. I mean, for instance, like you, Dan, right? You're doing sports like a actively, not just, I mean, what is it, like a
I do a
semi-professional.
little bit of bodybuilding on the side. Yes.
Yeah, but it's like
Not on the
sport.
side.
You
Yeah.
also a father, right? You build your family. So I mean, you work on your relation. Apart from you being a professional, like in sales, right, or teaching people, a trainer, you also have a lot of other skill sets and gifts that often just completely ignored, right? Well, I've actually built a number of relationships right through my life and succeeded. Then I'm a father. Then I'm also actually, you know, coaching myself or going through training. And things like that, right? There are also some paths that you maybe left behind when you're specializing,
Mm.
right? You maybe had to de-specialize in certain things, but they're still there. There's still the skill sets are there. So basically, you have to like deconstruct the current identity into those Lego pieces, and then you have to be creative around how to build something new. But you, of course, understand that the number of options becomes almost unlimited that you can create with these Lego pieces, right?
Yeah.
And
If you've got enough Lego pieces, you can build pretty much anything.
exactly. So what's important there is something I call purpose.
Hmm.
And okay, purpose is very overused word, but purpose is really something, simplistically saying, it's something that naturally makes you curious and naturally allows your energy to flow. It's basically something like the best test. You're tired and you're on the couch and you're like watching telly, and or even for that you don't have energy and you're just like really tired, and then I don't know, you either see something and an idea comes to mind, and suddenly you know that, yeah, that the energy flows suddenly out of you. Just, I'm exhausted, where does the energy come from? You know this feeling, right? You get
I
it.
was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and the phrase that a lot of people use with purpose is like, "What would you dare to do if you knew you couldn't fail?" And it's a nice
Yeah,
question, right? It's very fluffy.
yeah,
People feel
yeah,
nice about it. But
yeah.
what I really like in a question, and I always credit it to Seth Godin, he says, "What would you dare to do if you knew you would fail, but you would do it anyway?"
Mm.
And it's that kind of thing that you just love to do it. It's something that connects, and like you say, you
Yeah.
could be tired, but you can find energy to do this thing because
Oh, suddenly you just jump off the couch and you do, and you start searching on a
yeah,
net, or you start writing your ideas down. Or you start, you know, we all have. I mean, every single man I speak to, they all talk about, yeah, but that's always gets me going. Well, that's purpose. That's, and the purpose, the main, to me, the main kind of sign of purpose that gives you energy. And
mm,
that's exactly, and it's almost like failure, winning doesn't matter even. Like it's not just about, yes, it's a good, by the way, good question, what if you could not win or could not fail? But here it's almost like winning, failure at that moment doesn't even matter. You're just so in the flow. You're just so kind of, oh my God, this is just, it's driving you from within, right?
Yeah.
The trouble we have often that this kind of sense of purpose and those Lego pieces, they're kind of disconnected. So they, but that's actually when you find a way with the help, or sometimes guys, find it, by themselves. If you find a way to actually build from this Lego pieces something that will be fueled by this purpose, right? So the purpose sometimes uh, you experienced it maybe when you were less maybe preoccupied about your work or career. Maybe you played with your daughter, right? Maybe you went for a walk. Maybe you were on holidays, right? So often then we get into another very, very false kind of line of thinking. Well, purpose is something you do after work. When
Yeah.
I'm retired, or when I make enough money, when I then I will be on purpose,
Yeah.
which kind of drives me crazy. Why? This is like natural generator of energy. Here's the man out of energy soldiering through, right? And he has all these Lego pieces. Why don't we just put it together when the purpose will be first? Because that will be like a North Star. And then from these Lego pieces, we will be, well, how would it look like in the today's working world so that this man can make income with it? Because
Yeah.
we're not just dreamers who go out, and now you have responsibility, you have family to
Right.
provide to, and you want to be still grown up man, right? And you want to be successful, and you want to win, and all these things still apply. It's not about, oh my God, I'm just such a downshifter now, and it's like whatever, I fall off the radars and I'm like off the grid and whatever. No, it's not that at all. Now with these Lego pieces, we built a new prototype or new identity that actually now will be on purpose. So it will have natural flow of energy, and it will use all the skill sets and abilities and experiences in a new way, right, to serve this purpose, right? So and
Give
you
me
will
some,
feel
give me,
I'm utilizing all of myself, or
yeah,
most
yeah.
of myself. Yeah.
Give me some examples. Like who, like mentioning no names, but give me an example, like a couple of who have you done this with, and give me one that's. No, I can see like small transitions. Give me a major one. Give me something that you think someone was over here, they went all the way over here, but you were able to connect the dots with
Mm.
regards to the
It's not
skills.
actually always all the way over there. Sometimes the shift is not that huge, actually, but it happens. For instance, recently was a client who was a journalist, quite a successful journalist, but he really did not. Well, he felt very limited. Let's put it this way. I don't want to say he completely didn't enjoy. He did enjoy aspects of his work, but he felt limited. He
Mm,
felt that, like you said, he felt he developed certain mastery, but he's limited, and he's limited by basically the policy, or let's say the decisions of the bosses, who they're interviewing, what they're talking about. And but he wanted to have what he said, his own show. But somehow the part of him was saying it's not for him, he's not ready, this is dangerous, this is risky. And guess what, podcasting then suddenly was like, oh yes, but podcasting is actually where people now having their own shows, right?
yeah, exactly.
So, and you don't even need like to leave your current employment. You can start experimenting, and that opened the door into him now experiment with his new identity. And the curious, it's kind of almost the same. He's still a journalist. I mean, he's doing interviews, but suddenly he found himself, no, actually, it's now a very different show, because he has his own interests, who he wanted on the show, what he wanted to focus on. So it's maybe not like 180. It's maybe, I don't know, 44-degree or 90-degree shift, but it actually, a lot of people underestimate the risk and fear they have, even shifting like 45, 90 degrees, right? Because it's close. He's actually in the same niche, maybe, right? Because he's interviewing, he's maybe the same networks will be watching his show and they will be judging him, right? So he's worried about that. So that's, for instance, show. And we had to do a lot of work, believe it or not, with him giving himself permission that he actually allowed to have his own show,
Mm,
and not just allowed to have his own show, but the own show will be very successful. That
yeah.
he has something to say, right? And his guests have something to say, and that channel is so needed in the world, right? And there's so many. There is an audience for that channel. And the only thing you could find out is by trying, experimenting. Because that's another what I'm helping to do is once you understand the purpose and the Lego pieces, like his Lego pieces, where there are a lot of relevant Lego pieces, but some of them had to be shifted and changed around and all that. And then there had to be also this experimentation where he would experiment and see, well, actually, I love it. It's great. I'm natural. the shows are really interesting and so on. Of course, he did not have like overnight success overall. There needs to be some building, but he knows he's on the right track already, right? And he's already building his plan B well. He still has his job. And then when he feels ready, right, he just lets go of the old. He's already in the new. So that's one. Another and that's a real example. A guy who's been corporate employee, senior manager, 9 to 5 job, and for 7 years, this guy been trying to launch his own business, like on the side, like a side hustle. That, and actually, he wanted to become a business owner.
Yeah.
7 years of trialing, failing, and he was about to give up. And he's like done some executive educational programs and all this and that, but it just wasn't happening. And we started working together. He realized what held him behind, and he found out a very creative way of actually finding a business that already was there. He found a way that he could buy a business, right? It was really very creative and very interesting, the niche and everything. And by basically in 2 months already, since like the first time we spoke, he was on my free call, he already found this business to buy. And 6 months later, he sent me an email with this website saying that's my new business.
Wow.
It was almost miraculous. But again, one of the things he had to give himself is permission to be successful as an entrepreneur. He had to release a lot of beliefs about what it means to have your own business, and what he should do to have his own business. What are the right steps? And one of that, actually, he felt he had to quit his job and then start doing that, right? Which is the worst thing to do. Because
There's so much stress. There's pressure then on the new thing. You kill the new thing. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like saying, I have a new baby. Now she will provide for the family. No. Yes. No, the baby needs to grow. But then next time he spoke, he was already scaling. And that part of it was really finding a safe way, let's say it's still high risk, but still it's a safer way, a way where he can grow into his new identity, experiment with it, and still, had a protection of his current business, right?
This is perfect. And I think, if I look at this, there's a couple of ways that I've seen this. And I think this is a far more sustainable model than to quit your job and start something new entirely on Monday, which is a bad idea. A couple of things that people can do that I've seen work well is, number one, negotiate with your current employer to go part-time. Like, I think, or work 4 days a week or something. So instead of doing 5 or 8 hours, do 4 days at 10 hours, or go part-time, take a day to yourself, and then have that. Because typically employers will want to keep you if you're a specialist and you have that knowledge and that internal kind of useful information. They'll want to keep you on board. So use that to your
100%. I want to add to that. This is a very important point, Danny, making. Do you mind me interrupting? First, like you also said, give examples. A lot of guys, for instance, I work with, they want to be some sort of consultant or coach. Yeah, there's a lot of interest in that. Well, these sort of things definitely you can start doing while you still have your corporate job. A lot of men tell themselves a story that they cannot do that, or that that somehow there's a conflict of interest, or the company will not allow, blah, blah, blah. 99% of that is BS. I mean, you should not hide, you should not lie, you should not fake. But I can tell you that every single client who told me how it's not possible, how his company will never allow, we always found a way actually to negotiate with the company and find a way, even without going part-time. Although part-time is a great option as well. But even without that, they found a way how they can start already experimenting, and in fact, how they can present it to the company that now they're even better at their job because they're also doing something like coaching, right? Or something like that. Another thing you can also do, so going part-time is absolute, and experimenting on the side is really great. Another thing which is really great, and many people actually feel shy to do it, is actually to have, if you go and consult, for instance, you have a certain skill set that you offer to your company as an employee. And then you feel like you want to go more independent, that you can actually become a freelancer consultant offering the same skill sets to other companies, other clients. And in fact, you can negotiate with your company that they will buy your skill sets as a client. So they will become your first client. A lot of people shy to negotiate, but it's a very good option. And it makes you also a very safe transition. All right. And then you can also give you freedom. You can already have a minimum of your bills paid, but at the same time you're open to experiment with different clients, right?
Yeah, that's that entrepreneur idea. I think I've heard that phrase being used before. It's like you go from, you're not an entrepreneur to go outside the organization, but being an entrepreneur. So just repositioning yourself within the company to do the thing that you really want to do.
Exactly. If provided that's what you enjoy, right? Because
Right.
that's, if you're already fed up, if you hate doing it, then I would really consider finding something else to do, because then it will be even harder to do it when you're outside the company, and you wouldn't have the pressure and all that, right?
Yeah. Or at least having that company be your first, like you say,
Sure.
client, where you go from, you have a retainer and a contract in place. That's a
Yeah,
really good idea.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Anna, this is amazing. This is like, what have been, when you said you went through your transition, what were some of the mistakes? It sounds like trying to do it all on your own was a mistake.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what were some of
Well,
the other?
I can tell you what. There's one mistake was, and was that I was on a conference in the US, and there was actually a workshop there. I was in my corporate role, and there was a workshop. So I do want to become a consultant, so I signed up for this kind of workshop among other corporate workshops on this one. And the lady shared the book, was very big book about how to become an independent consultant or something like that. And I read, and I took this book and I tried to implement this book for almost 2 years or so, and that was a big mistake. And what I found, that people who even made themselves successful transitions from, let's say, corporate into having their own business or being a freelancer or whatever career pivots, they often, when they tell a story, they kind of make it look how they think it should look, not how it actually happened.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
basically they lie. I mean, not without maybe intention. They think it will be better, more helpful. But I have to say, that damn book get me stuck. I don't want to blame it on the book, but I actually was like, oh my God, lady. Later, when I was doing it, I said, I know she didn't do it that way. A lot of people do it backwards, but then when they tell the story, they kind of want to tell you, this is A, this is B, and then I had this epiphany, and then I did this, and then I did that. And that's just not true.
No.
So with actually my clients, I avoid recommending books, because a lot of clients on my calls, well, which book should I read? And what I find that a lot of guys that are stuck, they like reading books. It
Mhm.
feels they need to think about it and be on their own. And in fact, when they read the book, they feel good about themselves, because they almost like tick the box on their to-do list that they have to pivot careers. So reading a book, number one, first step, buy a book.
Yeah.
Great, tick. Second, read the book thing, right? So I actually think it's a self-sabotaging.
Mhm.
I'm not blaming that lady, by the
It's
way.
not a lack of knowledge, is it? It's
I
not
think
lack of it.
I
Yeah,
honestly used her book to tick my to-do list, because you know what, then taking actions is scary.
yeah. No, it is.
Reading books is comfort zone,
Yeah,
especially for guys who are very in the head. And I said a lot of most of the guys, most of my clients are in the head. Their comfort zone is thinking about it. I am strategizing about it. So with the career pivot, that's the message I would like your audience to hear. Career pivot is not about strategizing. It's not about thinking about it at all. It's about, yes, you do have to have some clarity about what direction you're moving, but it's best found by consulting, talking to someone else or whatever. And then you just have to experiment by acting. And that's scary, 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 scary. But that's the only thing, because you know what people do? They go get, that's another thing. They go get new degrees, for instance, because they know someone else killing it being, I don't know, a therapist.
yeah.
That's a very common actually thing, where people want to be therapists. They get a degree and then they start having clients and then they hate it. They just hate this job.
Yeah.
3 years, at least they invest a lot of money just to have access to the first client,
Yeah.
and then they hate it. And no, you should first experiment with elements, at least, right, of this. See, would you really want to be a coach all day long,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
was just I
things
was
like
listening
that.
to I was listening to a TED talk with, I think it's the Stanford Life Design School, and they were talking about prototyping, right? And creating 3 prototypes for things that you can try, right? So you've mentioned things here like a side hustle or a podcast or something. You can do these things super quick now. And
100,
like you say,
100%.
you do want to think about it. There's an element of strategization that kind of like, is it going to
10%.
work? Yeah, yeah. But then go and build something or write something down or take some action or try something or pitch the concept to someone or something along
Yeah,
those lines. Go and test the
absolutely.
water. You don't have to
Yeah.
jump in with both feet and kind of just like tie
No,
down.
oh,
You
yeah.
got to put your feet in the water.
Yeah, yeah, and I prototype. I actually use that word. I love it. And
Mm.
often say you needs to be like really quick and dirty kind of thing. First
MVP, right?
prototype
Yeah,
could be really ugly, and it's basically like what it looks like this, it feels like this, maybe doing this and this. Well, let's try it, right? And
yeah,
then you okay, this didn't work, that didn't work. So, but still, through this experimenting, you already pivoting. That's a very important thing through moving through that, you're already starting pivoting. While you're thinking about it, you're not doing anything. It's
yeah,
almost like saying, I mean, I want apples, but I'm not, putting the seed in the ground. I'm thinking about it. I'm
yeah.
thinking about it, right? Well, if you put like 10 seeds in the ground and 9 of them die, but one of, then you have a chance, right?
Yeah.
In 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, I'm not a gardener, but it's like have an apple at some point, right? But that's the whole thinking about it, talking, or the worst thing is I talk to guys by the cooler, right? Or it's like water cooler. I had a chat and they thought the startup idea was great. Okay, that satisfied me for 2 years. Then I had
Yeah.
another idea, right? Literally,
And
guys,
then you saw somebody
guys
else
do
do it,
that.
and you were kicking yourself.
Exactly, exactly. They're like, you see, I had a great idea. So
Oh,
man, that's not gonna get you out of your stuckness. Stuckness starts with you really like start shifting, and the first thing is yeah, accepting that it's not working for you where you are, right, and seeking help.
yeah. The idea of side hustle is huge, and then if you are successful, the idea of having a side hustle where it's not very good. There's a quote, I think it's that be brave enough to suck at something new, I think is such an important thing. And I've
Yeah,
been podcasting now for what, a year and a bit, something like that. And my first episodes, they were terrible. I mean, arguably they're not getting much better, but we'll go with it. But eventually you find your voice, and then you refine things over time.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think it's giving
absolutely.
yourself permission to try these things, like you said.
Yeah. I would say with side hustles, there's first of all, yeah, it's just doing it and doing it more playfully. It's like
Mm,
when we're born as humans, we suck at everything, right?
yeah,
It's literally everything. We can't do anything, but we're trying and learning, and we are very fast learners, right? So, and the thing is, there is like with the side hustles, it's a project. It's more like a play as well, more playful, and that what helps when you're on purpose. It's like you're more playful, more creative, right? And less judgmental, yeah, because if you say, well, if your first podcast is not like overwhelming success, then it's not, it's not worth trying. Yeah, that's what a lot of guys actually do. They try once, twice, thrice, and then boom, oh
yeah,
no, it was a failure,
yeah.
right?
I
So
didn't get a million views on my second episode. It was like, yeah,
yeah, but so that's one thing. But the another thing is also at some point, you got to take it seriously and also trust that maybe it's ready to be, more than a side hustle. Because if you also just kind of hate your job, like 12 hours a day, hate, 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 and then there's like, I don't know, 2 hours a day, you're
yeah,
doing something you're enjoying, right? And
yeah,
then if you keep that balance, then your side hustle will never have a chance to grow. At some point, it needs to take more space, right? And it needs to grow, and it needs to then become a real competition with
yeah,
your, let's say, main. So it's important not to sit too long on these two identities, right? I would say usually from research, so there's like anything from like 3 months to 3 years, so roughly in average 18 months. So if you're sitting for longer, let's say 18 months in this
yeah.
two identities, ask yourself, maybe again a bit of sabotaging going on, and you keep saying, well, you never will make money with it, something like that. And if
There's
your
some,
one identity becomes like a
yeah,
bullying, you're bullying the other identity, so there's at some point you got to just say, yeah, well, you know what, I see it has legs. It stood the test of time, and I'm enjoying it, and I don't enjoy this, and I see if I've invested so far and it's grown so far, then I'll make it work. So you need to take a leap of faith at some point, but after you've already experimented and that's exactly what you want, and you're
yeah,
willing to make it a success.
yeah. Anna, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you. I think people listening will recognize the symptoms of frustration, burnout, dread, as you mentioned. And I
Yeah.
think the ideas that you've given them in terms of how to get started and how to take action and conceptualize these things. I love the idea of Lego. I'm going to play Lego later. I'm not going to look at it in the same way before. Has been super useful. Your website, annaurnova.com, I'll post a link to that. What do you want people to do as a result of this? If they listen to this, they've been inspired, what's the one thing you want them to do in terms of taking action?
Well, you can always watch my free training. Go to www.annaurnova.com, watch my free training where I actually speak about 5 shifts of successful career pivot, right? And I also describe the symptoms. So it's only 45 minutes, but honestly, it's a great investment because you can, and I tell the truth about how it really works. And I say a couple of things about me as well so that you have, the credibility. But basically, the most important thing is not about me, my credentials, it's about whether it resonates or not with you, right? I also share stories, real stories of my real clients, usual, normal, common men who did it and how they did it. So it's already 45 minutes well invested. So you can see, is it about you? Does it resonate? Can you use any of the shifts? Because, for instance, one of the things I also mentioned is that a lot of people kill the great ideas by going to the most trusted networks to test them, and it's not the right way to do. Networks are very important at Career Pivot, but you need to approach networking differently. And I also share that in that. So the free training, it's completely free. There is no like catch or whatever. And that already, I think, would be a great first step. And then also ask yourself a question. So can I apply any of that if that really resonates? And if you find out, watch it, it resonates, but you're lost, then there's a free call and there's like a link to do that. And where, again, no catch. And it's a call I give where I will listen to your story and we will see if that's your case and how you can apply these 5 shifts to you, right? So no one sort of find this calls waste of time. Yeah. And it's always, sometimes guys already say, okay, I know exactly what it is, and they get emails, oh, I did this, I did that, thanks very much, I've been sitting on the fence, now I know what to do. Or guys know that that's burnout, for instance, situation, and they got to seek help, and or it's toxic environment, they need to do something about it. So basically it's a great way. Just do not ignore, do something. Any action is better than none.
Perfect. Well, Anna, thank you so much for joining. Like I say, I'll post a
Thanks for
link.
having me.
If you want to have a call with Anna, then definitely join on there. And Anna, I guess you're a career coach slash Lego master builder is I'm going to phrase you.
Prototyper.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for your advice for people who are thinking about making a career transition.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks for having a great show.